Okay, I'm going to read chapter 2 of this book. Turn on my recorder. Chapter 2, Into the Panelverse. When Stanley Lieber stepped into the halls of timely publications, he wasn't chasing greatness. He was chasing a job. $8 a week was $8 more than nothing. The floors creaked, the deadline screamed, and the office air was heavy with cigarette smoke and ink. But something else lived in that room too. Potential. Comics in 1939 were not considered art. They were barely considered writing. They were seen as cheap entertainment for kids, the kind you rolled up in your back pocket or threw away after reading. And yet, week after week, issue after issue, they kept selling. Because comics weren't polished literature. They were pulp lightning. And Stan, still a teenager, was about to help. Wire the grid. Timely Comics was founded by Martin Goodman, a sharp-nosed publisher who smelled trends before they peaked. His philosophy: if it sells, we print it. Westerns? Check. Romance? Check. Superheroes? Sure, if they move units. Timely's early success came from a handful of flashy titles. The Human Torch, The Submariner, Captain America. These weren't icons yet. They were experiments. But they hit hard in the nation. That didn't work hard. These weren't icons yet. They were experiments. But they hit hard in a nation on the brink of war. Captain America Comics #1, with Steve Rogers socking Hitler in the jaw, sold nearly 1 million copies, proof that even in fantasy, people wanted to punch back. And into this swirl stepped young Stanley, slowly climbing from an inkwell filler to dialogue polisher to full-blown scriptwriter. Let's try that again. And into this swirl stepped young Stanley, slowly climbing from inkwell filler to dialogue polisher to full-blown scriptwriter. He made his comic debut in Captain America Comics #3, writing filler text under the name Stan Lee. It wasn't a typo, it was a mask. He planned to save his real name for the real writing he'd do one day. Irony is a hell of a thing. Stan Lee wasn't just easier to print. It sounded bigger, bolder, like something from the pages he was helping create. Over time, the pseudonym swallowed. Ouch. I hate when I bite myself. Over time, the pseudonym swallowed the person. Not in a sinister way, but in a mythic one. Because Stan wasn't just writing characters anymore, he was one. And even then, he was already starting to see what comics could do. Not just entertain, but reveal. Comics in the right hands could become modern-day myth engines. And all they needed was someone who could see beyond the frame. Make no mistake, Stan Lee was operating in a space the literary world mocked. Comics were considered juvenile, disposable, even dangerous. Politicians and parents blamed them for juvenile delinquency. Schools banned them. Critics dismissed them. But that outsider status gave the medium freedom. There were no rules because no one cared. There were no rules because no one cared enough to make them. And for a kid with a wild imagination, a sharp wit, and a closet full of ambitions, that made comics the perfect training ground. It was theater, literature, journalism, and jazz, all smashed into 24 pages with 3 colors and a deadline. Stan was ready to break the rules. He just had to earn the pen. By the 1940s, Stan Lee was writing full books, editing entire lines, and slowly guiding Time Lee into something more. The company would eventually become Atlas Comics, and later the name we all know, Marvel. But that evolution wasn't magic, it was method. And soon, Stan Lee would stop mimicking the past and start reinventing the future. Try that last line again. And soon, Stan Lee would stop mimicking the past and start reinventing the future.